Hey, on to another live stream. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Andrea. Please let me know in the comments whether or not my audio is working well. So both the mic and please let me know, do you also hear the background music of the earnings call, conference call? I'm now putting the volume up of that call. And now I'm muting it. And now I'm putting it up again. Let me know if that's working. The reason why I'm asking is that I have a different setup today than usually. The earnings call will begin in 2 minutes, and I'm not at home. I'm covering here live from the airport before flying out. So I hope everything will work out as usual with the connection and the sound. I apologize that it's not ideal. However, I didn't want to miss out on covering the event, both for myself. I want to know the facts from the management directly. But I also want to give you my insights as far as I can. Always know this is not financial advice, but I want to give you my opinion on how I see the development of NIO. And earlier in my first live stream today, which is still available as a recording, if you're maybe just waking up in the US and you haven't seen it, I went through the earnings report and I mentioned that it's been largely in line with the expectations of the investors, at least from what I see in the media comments and also the actual estimations by investors out there. So it's been a pretty flat, normal business as usual report by NIO, in my opinion. On the other hand, I personally have been a bit more bullish on some of the metrics there. I expected the margins to grow quicker, for example, and have fewer net losses. That didn't turn out. But the direction is still in the right direction with both weaker margins and gross margins improving. And the net loss has been basically flat. So I hope I'll be right in the next quarter on the improvements on the net losses. On the positive side, we had a surprise with more cash on a better financial position, better cash flows than I personally expected. So there was good in that. Hi, Sebastian. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome, everybody. I think it's supposed to start any minute now. In the background, you should hear the melody, the sound playing of the earnings call. And then I expect the usual remarks in the beginning, which will be a bit slow and boring maybe in the beginning, but then we will get to the analyst questions, which should be interesting. This time, we scheduled it in a way that we have maybe more time before the actual market opens, so that's good. And yeah, I appreciate everybody tuning in again. So now,
hello, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for standing by
for NIO Incorporated.
I'm making it a little bit lower in the beginning. Again, please let me know if there's any technical difficulties. I apologize for the fact that I have to live stream here from the airport today. But I hope you can get the essence of the earnings call now and some really good insights. I also will be summarizing it in the comment section and also will be taking your Q&A. As always, be reminded that if you are a subscriber for more than a year, you can actually put your comments in the comment section. I really appreciate that. By the way, I would also appreciate if you could share the video and smash a like and maybe consider becoming a patron in the future or a channel member to support us here with this channel. That would be awesome.
Before we continue, please be kindly reminded that today's discussion will contain forward-looking statements made under the safe harbor provisions of the U.S. Private Securities Litigation Reform Act.
Hearing that this is still the normal remarks going into the actual earnings call, so you can take more time to sharing this video, getting the live stream filled up and going. In the previous live stream, we had 400 people watching, so I'm really appreciating there's so much interest in NIO and this YouTube channel and my coverage. I always try to do my best here and give you my personal observations. I'm obviously invested in NIO, so I'm bullish on the company and on NIO stock. Even still after this earnings report that I've seen so far, I think it's largely in line with where we're headed. I think it's going into the right direction. However, you always need to do your personal due diligence, and I cannot give you advice when it comes to your personal actions, whether of buying or selling the stock here. Okay, so that's for now. Again, a quick summary for everybody who's tuning in later. I'm here live at the airport. This is my second live stream here today. And the other one, as well as this live stream, will be available as a recording later on to everybody who's tuning in later. Now, again, Libin in English.
In Q3, the company achieved a new quarterly record with 61,855 deliveries. The NIO brand maintained its position as the top-selling brand in China's BEV segment, priced above 300,000 yuan, with its market share reaching 48%. The ONVO brand also started to deliver its first model L60 on September 28th, marking its entry into the broader mainstream family market. In October 2024, the company delivered 20,976 vehicles, while the ONVO brand continued to ramp up production capacity. The company's total deliveries in Q4 are expected to be between 72,000 and 75,000 units. On the financial side, our Q3 results reflected continued improvement in component costs, leading to a vehicle margin of 13.1%. Besides, the gross margin of other sales has improved steadily. Supported by sustained growth in the revenues and the gross margin, the company achieved a positive operating cash flow and free cash flow in Q3. Now, I would like to share with you some updates on our products, R&D, and operations. NIO's executive flagship 89 is in the final testing and the preparation before mass production, and the delivery is expected to start in March next year. The 89 brings together NIO's leading innovations. Its delivery will reinforce NIO's premium brand image. With new models to be introduced in the coming year, the NIO brand will be more focused on improving profitability. The ONVO S60, aiming at the mainstream family market, has been a hit with family users thanks to its spacious cabin, ultra-low energy consumption, comprehensive safety features, and hassle-free charging and swapping experience. Now, we are ramping up our supply chain capacity. NIO's monthly production capacity is expected to hit 10,000 units in December and 20,000 units by March. Besides, on December 21st, NIO's third brand, officially named Firefly, will make a global debut on NIO Day 2024. Its first product will be delivered in the first half of next year. Targeting the boutique compact car market, the Firefly brand will enrich the company's product lineup and make full use of existing sales networks. In terms of smart driving, by October, NIO's smart driving had over 610,000 users, and 78.4% had activated NIO's Navigate on Pilot. Together, they had driven over 1.39 billion kilometers with NOP. The ONVO smart driving, based on the company's experience and expertise built over time, was rolled out with the L60, making ONVO the first brand to deliver vision-based navigation-guided smart driving on urban roads. The company's sales footprint continued to grow. So far, NIO has 176 NIO houses and 412 NIO spaces worldwide, while ONVO has 191 stores across China. On the service end, the company has 398 service centers and 65 delivery centers. The Power Up Counties plan is making strong headway. with more partners joining us, expanding the network. As of now, the company has 2,737 POS workstations worldwide, including 887 on highways, having provided over 58 million swaps for NIO and ONVO users. In addition, over 24,000 power chargers and destination chargers are up and running. We continue to expand globally. On November 28th, the first NIO house in the MENA region will open in Abu Dhabi, and our sales and delivery have already started in the UAE. Next year, with new products from ONVO and Firefly, the company will accelerate its international market entry. On September 29th, NIO China signed a new investment agreement and secured 3.3 billion yuan from a strategic investor. This capital boost reinforces our balance sheet and reflects the investor's high confidence in NIO's industry leadership. On October 26th, the 2024 NIO Cup Formula Student Electric China came to an end. Supporting the event for 10 years, NIO has helped more than 60,000 talented students chase their dreams in the rapidly evolving smart EV industry. November 25th marks NIO's 10th anniversary, a milestone that wouldn't have been possible without the trust and the support of our users and investors. Going forward, as the NIO brand starts to enter a new product cycle, and ONVO and Firefly will deliver more new products, the company is embarking on a phase of robust growth. We are confident in what's to come. Thank you for your support. With that, I will now turn the call over to Stanley for Q3's financial details. Over to you, Stanley.
Thank you, William.
All right, quick remark by William here, and now the new CFO speaking. And thanks, Arian. I'll try to cover it as good as I can here, live from the airport. As I mentioned, this will be available as a recording. Welcome to everybody who's just waking up or joining us here. I might have some connection issues today or not as great audio quality this time, but I do my best as I can here to cover this event live for you guys, and excited for the comments by the management now.
Which was mainly due to the increased delivery volume. Moving to the performance of other business. Other sales were 2 billion RMB, grew by 19.2% year-over-year and 11.9% quarter-over-quarter. The year-over-year increase was mainly due to the increase in sales of parts, accessories, and after-sales vehicle services, and provision of power solutions, and partially offset by lower sales of used cars. The increase quarter-over-quarter was mainly attributed to the increase in sales of parts, accessories, and after-sales vehicle services, and provision of power solutions. Vehicle margin was 13.1% in this quarter, compared to 11% in the same period of 2023, and 12.2% last quarter. The year-over-year increase was mainly due to decreased material cost per unit, and partially offset by lower average selling price as a result of changes in product mix. The quarter-over-quarter increase was mainly due to decreased material cost per unit. Overall gross margin was 10.7%, up from 8% in the same period of last year, and 9.7% in the last quarter. Turning to Opex. R&D expenses were 3.3 billion RMB, increased 9.2% year-over-year and 3.1% quarter-over-quarter. The year-over-year increase was both mainly driven by the increased personnel costs in R&D functions. SG&A expenses were 4.1 billion RMB, increased 13.8% year-over-year at 9.3% quarter-over-quarter, which was mainly driven by higher personnel costs related to sales functions, and increased sales and marketing activities associated with new product launch. Loss from operations was 5.2 billion RMB, up 8.1% year-over-year and relatively flat quarter-over-quarter. Net loss was 5.1 billion RMB, showing an increase of 11% year-over-year and remaining relatively stable quarter-over-quarter. Lastly, we ended the quarter with a stronger balance sheet, with total cash and cash equivalents, restricted cash, short-term investments, and long-term time deposits amounting to 42.2 billion RMB. That wraps up our prepared remarks. For more information and the details of our unaudited third quarter 2024 financial results, please refer to our earnings press release. Now I will turn the call over to the operator to start our Q&A session. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
If you wish to
very
ask a question, please
solid,
press star one
quick
on your
remarks here.
telephone and wait
I
for your
like how
name to be
NIO's
announced.
becoming more efficient
If you
for
wish
the
to
earnings
cancel
calls.
your
And
request,
again,
press
here
star
in English,
two.
both from
If
CEO and
you're on a
CFO,
speakerphone,
remarkably
please pick up the
seems to
handset
be
to ask
that
your question.
Li
For
Bin
the
has improved
benefit of
his
all
English, right?
participants on today's call, please limit yourself to 2 questions. And if you have additional questions, you can re-enter the queue. Your first question comes from Tim
Let me know in the
Zhao
comments
with
what kind of
Morgan
questions
Stanley.
you're
Please
expecting
go
today.
ahead.
Hi, good evening, NIO management team. This is Tim from Morgan Stanley. Thanks for taking my questions. I have 2 questions. The first one is about brand strategy alignment, because we noticed since the L60, ONVO L60 was launched in September, the orders of NIO brands and ONVO brand have been seesawing. The order trends of NIO and ONVO appear contrary. Should we be worried about the potential cannibalization between these 2 brands when it comes to the end demand, brand proposition, and the supply chain management? That's my first question. Thank you.
谢谢 Tim。
Tough question. Let's
我
see.
们10月份的话呢
Cannibalization has been a
，NIO
worry,
的
of
这个
course.
交付量和9月底有一
Let's
些
see
下
if
降，这个
Li Bin can
总
add
的
some
来说
actual
是一个
statistics
逐
and
步的
numbers
调整，
on
因为
that.
我们确确实
Personally, I
实在
think
9月份
in my
和
reading
10
of
月
the
都
weeklies
是
and
每
so
月
on,
交付到
it's
2万
mainly
辆，但是我们
currently
也
a
意识
problem
到
with the
这个
ONVO's
我们的
scaling
获利
up
的
that
这
I have
个压力是
expected,
非常大的，因为直接
and
提
not so
到
much an
NIO 的
issue
毛
with
利是我们
cannibalization.
的
But
主营销，
let's see what
所以我
Li
们
Bin
在
can put
10
out
月份
there
的时候呢，我们是
as a
修
reply.
改了不少这个
Actually,
客户
a
的
fair
数据
and good
1月
question,
10
I
号
think.
和9月底的话相比的话，我们收窄了15000
William,
这
we
个
were reading the analyst mind. Great call.
那所以我们当然这个肯定是会对
So
销
let
量会有
me
一些影响的，但这个
let
基本
me
上是
one more time welcome everybody
11
who's
月份
tuning
的话
in.
你看
While
到
in the background, Li Bin
前
is
期的一
answering
些
in
价格稳
Chinese
定了以后，
the analyst
我们的需
question.
求
We're now
可能
almost
会从目
400
前来
live
看的话呢，
people
按
watching
照
this
我
live
们的
stream.
这
That's
个计划
awesome.
在前
Today I'm live streaming
那
from
我
the
们
airport,
认
so
为这个
hope
用
everything
2个
works out
平
with
台
this live
第
stream
3
and
个
the
平台去
quality.
这个面对不同的用户，
Please
从目
feel
前来
free
看
to
是一个
share the
成功的
video
策略，
and slash a
是一
like,
个成功的平
subscribe
台
to
策
be
略。
able to comment
那
if you're
乐道
not
的
a
话
subscriber
呢，
yet
它
in the
的
future.
主要的用
And
户确确实实
yeah, what
是
else?
从
I
跟
will
它
be
竞争
taking
的这样
Q&A
一个区间里
by the end of this
比如说现在乐
conference
道
call.
的
But
第一个
now
来源
first,
是
let's
Model 3的
listen to what the management can
那
say
我
here
们
to
也
the
是
bank
在这里
analysts.
看
Okay.
分析一些数据
So in the background,
那
Li
乐
Bin is
道
still
对于
speaking
中
in
游的这个
Chinese.
用
The
户
first
的
question
话
was
我
on
们
the
自己的这
possible
个数
problem
据显示
of
大概
a
只有 2%的这个
cannibalization
影响，确实有
between
很少
the
的店
ONVO and the NIO brand,
它
which I
因
think is
为
a
这
a
个
fair
这个乐道
consideration
的
to
话
make.
就不买 NIO
Let's see.
有很少的一些用户，但是我们目前的数据大概只有 20%左右，所以我们的获得的这个增量的话远远大于这个减少啊，所以总的来说我们认为这个是成功的一个策略。
Thank you for the question. Regarding the overall delivery volume of the NIO brand, you see a decrease in our delivery volume starting October. That is more of a active adjustment than a passive result. As before October, our monthly delivery volume was above 20,000 units for several months consecutively. But in the meantime, we also realized that the vehicle margin has been under pressure as we have some promotions and marketing expenses on the product. Then starting October, we have dialed back on our expenses on that part. by reducing around 15,000 RMB per unit on the promotional costs and the marketing costs. With that, inevitably, you see the impact on the sales volume. But starting November, as we are stabilizing our delivery volume and the demand, we are seeing the recovery from our volume. And regarding our brand strategy, overall speaking, we think that using 2 or 3 brands to target different user groups is a successful strategy for now. For the ONVO, it is still competing with other competitors in the same price segment. Right now, when we are looking at the main source of the ONVO users, a majority of them actually come from the Model 3 users. And internally, we're also looking at the potential competition between the ONVO brand and the NIO brand. But the actual overlapping or the impact on the NIO brand is pretty minimum, only around 2%. It is true that few users may choose ONVO over NIO, but the overall impact on the sales and delivery of the NIO brand is limited. In that case, the combined increments of both ONVO and NIO still surpass the volume loss we had on the NIO brand in the past 1 or 2 months.
刚才那个Model 3说我们的第一大这个来源是 Model 3，不是 majority。
To clarify that, to look at the source of our ONVO users, the top 1 source of these ONVO users actually is coming from Model 3.
Okay,
Thank you
this
very
is
much, William.
more than
My second question
political
is the
answer.
production ramp-up.
Just a
Because we
second.
noticed the production ramp-up of L60 so far is still a little bit slow. What is the main reason to a more moderate ramp-up pace? Would there be any impact to our current order backlog towards the year end? And in the meantime, in view of the busy model pipeline of Fireflies and also the NIO ET9 in March next year, as William just mentioned, and the more upcoming models under ONVO and NIO, how would the group consider solving the bottlenecks into 2025? That's my second question. Thank you.
谢谢 Tim。其实这个 L60 呢，确确实实大家期待它的产能。
Okay, now Li Bin is talking in Chinese again. That gives me some time to get back to the first question on the analyst and the answer by Li Bin, which was about the potential cannibalization where, Li Bin answered in a way which first stated something that I've already mentioned here on the channel before. NIO is now prioritizing profitability for NIO brand over selling cars at discount and incentives and such. And so that led a little bit to a stabilization of the NIO brand and slower growth in NIO numbers, which is not an effect of ONVO cannibalizing the brand. Here's one new information that Li Bin put out, which is that only 2% of the NIO users are actually choosing to buy the ONVO car. So that's very low, and that's indicating there's no cannibalization. And that it's very good news. He mentioned that potential Tesla Model 3 buyers are actually the main group of people who are going to NIO. Interestingly, not the Model Y. I wonder why. Funny. But yeah, let's see how this will be kind of, be seen and confirmed in data going forward from both Model 3 sales as well as the ONVO sales, as well as obviously the effects, hopefully staying like this, that there's no cannibalization on NIO brand going forward. But that's, not a political correct way, only talking about that. He gave us an actual number and actual reasons, and I think the explanation is fair and well, in a good way.
50-60的用户，那在这个战败的原因吧，50-60%确确实实因为近期没法提车。你也可以理解，对于一个20万左右的车来讲的话，那可能1到2万块钱的这个补贴是非常大的一个数字，所以这也能理解。ET9 和 Firefly。
Okay, Li Bin taking more time talking in Chinese, so I'm going to welcome more viewers. We're now almost at 430 live viewers. That's amazing. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Please smash a like. And now back to the translation.
It's true that people have the market has a higher expectation for its ramp up and the production capacity. However, we also need to understand that L60 comes with a lot of cutting edge technologies. For example, it has the 900-volt high-voltage architecture, which is also intertwined with the production and the preparation of the battery and the powertrain systems. It also has a pretty advanced EE architecture, its operating system and digital system like Coconut also equipped with a lot of the new technologies. So such technology preparation will also take time. And we also didn't prepare a sufficient launch stock so that we will realize a very high delivery in the first month. We actually believe that ramping up to 10,000 units per month in December, that is our third month of the full month delivery, and then ramping up to 20,000 in March next year is a reasonable speed and pace. It's true that this speed may not live up to some of your expectations. And we also understand that on the subsidy side, by the end of this year, some local subsidies and also the national trade-in subsidy will be gone. In that case, for some users who placed the order later may not have their cars picked up by the end of this year, and that will affect their subsidy. In that case, we have also looked at the users who eventually turned us off or turned us on, and 50 to 60% of those users eventually rejected us, were because of the late delivery and the failure of not getting the subsidy by the end of this year. It's also understandable, as after all, ONVO product is around 200,000 something, and 10 or 20,000 subsidy can be a significant amount to them. For ET9 and the Firefly, in general, they also have their own ramp-up pace and the preparation. But for these two products, we will prepare the launch stock more actively.
Thank you, Tim.
The next question comes from Nick Lai with JP Morgan. Please go ahead.
Thank you for taking my questions, Nick from JP Morgan. My first question for William is strategically, how do we find a balance between profitability and volume? And William just mentioned that in the third quarter or in recent months, we reduced the incentive by 15,000 RMB. That obviously should support the vehicle margin into year end, but at the same time, that's probably at expense of the slower sales volume. So longer term, can you share with us how should we think about the balance between profit margin and volume? Or in other words, do we have a desired vehicle margin in 4Q or in the medium to longer term? I remember NIO in the past talk about a longer term vehicle margin between 15, 18% or even 20%. Can you share with us the medium to longer term volume and profit margin strategy? Thanks.
Okay, I guess I've now got time to talk a little bit because there's an answer going on in Chinese by the CFO. So maybe a bit more on the explanation by Libin about the ONVO ramp, in which he basically stated that yes, the market had higher expectations for a quick ramp that we've seen, for example, with competitors like Xiaopeng and Zeekr and so on. But you mentioned it's due to the fact that it's new technology, for example, 900 volts platform and so on. And I've heard there are issues, for example, with the new battery which is coming from BYD. So there are supply chain and technology constraints that are leading to the slower ONVO ramp than some have expected. I personally, again, I can only emphasize that I have not expected a faster ramp, but it is what it is. And that is, I have to say, partly NIO's problem. They're not as good operationally in supporting the ramp as fast as possible, but at the same point, as he highlighted, like 10K December and 20K by March next year are still fairly good ramp numbers, and I agree with that. However, it is leading to the negative consequences right now that some people who want to get still the subsidies for this year may switch to other brands. So that's the negative impact which we have to deal with for ONVO currently. I think that's a short-term negative effect, that's true. But over time, we will see whether or not this really hurts the scalability and the potential of ONVO overall. Okay, I still think the Q1 targets are quite high.
Thank you for the question.
Let's see.
Regarding your question on the balance between the volume and the profitability, as also mentioned by William, after the launch of the ONVO, for the new brand, our primary focus is to keep enhancing our premium brand positioning and improve our product profitability. So this will be our focus from now and beyond. And also starting October, we started to dial back on our product promotions and incentives. For the short term, it has affected our sales volume. But in the past 1 month or so with operations, we also see a bounce back momentum on our order backlog. And regarding the vehicle margin of the NIO brand, in the third quarter, it's 13.1%. And for the fourth quarter, we set the target at 15% for the NIO brand, and we are confident to gradually live up to that target in Q4 this year. And as we keep enhancing the premium positioning of this brand for the year of 2025, we will take 15% vehicle margin as a baseline. And by improving our marketing strategies and supply chain, we target to realize 20% gross margin going forward for the NIO brand.
Thank you. My second question is related to Capex and Opex guidance. As we are launching new brand, Firefly into 25, and also higher end EV product, higher end ET9 product, and so on. So can you give us some guidance regarding Opex, either Opex ratio as well as Capex in 25? Thanks.
好的，那个确实因为刚才我们也说，明年我们ET9也会 launch， 明年也会有3个品牌的这个 launch。从这个运营费用上来讲呢，我们也看到，就是我们在3季度的时候，整个的尤其是销售费用SG&A 的这个维度上升了不少。那这里面呢有一部分就是增加的金额。
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So I'm not sure if I got all of the information that we got here on the margins. Only the baseline for the vehicle margins to be for the NIO brand 15% on next year in each quarter at least, and going up to 20% ideally. So that's really great. That would be awesome. We also talked about the ONVO margins, but I'm not fully getting that. Maybe you can help me, guys, in the comment section, because I was just writing at this point in time. But overall, that would be ideal. I hope we still see the 15% vehicle margin in Q4. As I said, I have a bit more bullish projections going into this quarter. Still, we got vehicle margin expansions, but it's being guided now to more and more of that in the future. And now, maybe you have to see between the mix of ONVO and NIO on the vehicle margin side. But generally, very positive comments in my opinion here, and that's kind of paving the way to the hopefully first profitable quarter in Q4 2025. In my opinion, let's see if we get there.
随着我们明年的这个销量的逐步的提升呢，我们还是有信心去实现一个季度白季度的一个费效的一个提升。那从 Capex 的维度呢？ 今年呢，整个的 Capex 的投入是比去年有大幅度下降的。基本上从目前来看呢，全年在80亿左右的一个水平。
In the background, I'm now talking about the cost side, so the Capex expectations for next year. That would be interesting. I think we'll get the translations in a second. Might be indications on whether or not we see a path to profitability.
As mentioned, starting next year, we will start to deliver our ET9, and there will also be new models coming from our second and the third brand. So overall speaking, there will be increments with our Opex. As you can see, actually, in the third quarter of this year, we already see an increment in our SG&A expenses. That is mainly because we were preparing the sales network and the sales force for the launch of the ONVO brand. And such expenses will continue in Q4 and will also continue to increase in Q4, as right now we have around 190 stores, ONVO stores in China. And by the end of this year, we plan to have around 300 stores up and running for the ONVO brand. So we will need to invest in those facilities and the stores. And in the meantime, as our target for March next year is to realize a 20,000 monthly target, in that case, we will need to keep improving our sales network and also sales force. But as we are building up the sales capacity and the capability for the ONVO brand, and going into Q1 next year, when the capability and the capacity are well established, our SG&A expenses will also gradually coming down. So at the moment, the SG&A is taking a major chunk, taking a big chunk of our sales revenue, but this will gradually come to a reasonable level starting Q1 next year. In that case, our Opex, along with the increase of our sales volume, will have an efficiency improvement quarter over quarter from next year. Regarding Capex, this year, our overall Capex actually had a significant decrease from last year. The full year Capex is around 8 billion RMB, and for next year, we will keep it at around the same level. So we will keep a very prudent management of our Capex expenses.
Thank you, Nick.
Your next question comes from Ming Sun Lee with Bank of America. Please go ahead.
Hi, William. This is Ming from Bank of America. So my first question is related to the situation in Europe. I want to know that after the tariff in EU is increased, do you change your pricing strategy? And currently, does this impact the demand in Europe? Thank you. That's my first question.
Okay, while Li Bin is talking about impacts of the tariffs and NIO's response to that, let me quickly talk about information that we got from the CFO on Opex, Capex, so the expenditures that NIO basically investing in SG&A, in R&D operations, and so on. So these are on the cost side, right? Which I said, hopefully we get some guidance towards profitability. We did get that towards the end of his comments. But in the beginning, he said, the costs are still high because we are ramping new initiatives like new car models, new brands like investing in the stores, for example, for ONVO and so on. And we see that reflected, for example, in this report this time. And we should expect actually more costs for that. However, then in the second part, he also said what we would like to hear, because the first part is basically what investors don't like to hear, right? More cost, more cost, more cost. So that would include less profitability. But then he said we should see gradual quarter-over-quarter improvements on this metric by the end of the year next year. And overall, they are prudent in the cost management. And also this year, it has already been lower than the year before. So kind of mixed, I think, in this regard. Everyone can hear the good and the bad part about that. Depends a little bit of how investors see that, in my opinion.
Thank you for the question. It's true that with the tariff on the battery electric vehicles from China, it has affected our pricing strategy and also sales volume in Europe. Overall speaking, for the overseas market, we still adopt this unified global pricing strategy. That is basically a cost with a markup on top. In that case, because of the tariff, our prices in Europe actually has gone up quite significantly. However, our strategy for the European market is always aiming for the long term. At the moment, we will stay focused on improving our sales and service network, understanding the needs of the local users, and to improve our user satisfaction on the services and the products. This is actually where this strategy is not just because of the tariff. Even before the tariff, we've been focusing on the several key targets than simply prioritizing our sales volume. We will need to make sure that we have a reasonable investment into our European business while maintaining a good user satisfaction and also improving our brand awareness. Again, our target for the Europe is for the long term. And also out of the 5 European countries we have already entered, Norway is not affected by the tariff policy. In that case, our sales volume in the Norwegian market is still pretty good.
Yes, thank you. So my second question is related to the gross margin profile for ONVO brand, because Stanley just mentioned the NIO brand in 4Q gross margin will continue to improve to around 15%. But assume you will deliver around 20,000 units ONVO in 2024. What is the rough gross margin profile for this brand? And when your monthly delivery reach 20,000 units for ONVO brand, what is the potential gross margin profile for the brand? Thank you.
好的，因为乐道 L60处于爬产的初期。
Okay, more question on the gross margin in a second. Quick comments on tariffs and internationalization. I think NIO has a sound strategy here of staying active in those markets and take it slowly. There is impact on the tariffs, but there is also, I think, future potential for tariffs to have some sort of a deal at some point, and also that NIO could localize manufacturing and so on. So I think what NIO is doing there, just slowly building the brand overseas, including NIO houses in Germany, for example, so on, is the right strategy. I'm not concerned about those low sales numbers in the at the moment, or also the money spent on that. I think it's necessary. I think NIO has a great potential globally as a good brand, I think, from a investor's perspective, but it will take some time.
As we have just launched and started with the product at the early stage of the ramp up, and also because of the exclusive user rights for the early users, the actual vehicle margin for the ONVO L60 is not very high. It's a positive gross margin, but in the single digit. For next year, for the year of 2025, as we ramp up both production capacity and the delivery volume, we expect that for the ONVO brand, its vehicle margin will be around 10%, and that will be our baseline for the next year to work on. And with the continuous improvement on the product cost structure, and also with more products joining the overall lineup, we believe that for the next year, our overall vehicle margin target for the ONVO brand will be around 15%.
Thank you, Min.
Your next question comes from Bin Wang with Deutsche Bank. Please go ahead.
Thank you very much. My product about new products in the second half. You just mentioned you will have a robust growth in 25, and the first half seems to be only some niche products such as the 89 and a new brand. However, what's the plan for the second half? Do you plan to refresh, go to new generation for your key volume products such as the 85 Touring and ES6, ET6? All these four products will go to new generation or not in 2025 second half? Thank you.
谢谢王斌。这个明年确实我们 NIO 的品牌陆续的都会这个切换到新的一代的平台，所以我们会进入一个新的产品周期。那当然第一款产品是 ET9， 后续的陆续的会有这个新的。
All right, guys, sorry, I'm missing parts of the information here because, as I said, this is an unusual situation. I'm live at the airport now. I've been joined by Miriam and our baby, so you can welcome them to the stream as well. And by the way, thanks for more than 500 people watching. While Li Bin is still talking in the background about the next question in Chinese, the topics around margins, I think, have a little bit of uncertainty right now, but the guidance here is generally quite good and bullish. We should see some impact by the ONVO brand once it reaches a bigger scale, so it also makes a bigger scale of the overall sales, and therefore may have an impact of the overall margins in the beginning, which might be a negative one on NIO, given the fact that the NIO brand itself has higher margins than the ONVO brand, and ONVO will only catch up later. However, in general, as we've heard, the profitability focus is now on the NIO brand, expected to have very good margins all of the year 2025, and help the NIO business case on this side. And the growth part will be ONVO and expected to launch to pretty good margins by the end of next year. That's my takeaway.
So basically, in 2025 and 2026, we will complete the upgrades of our existing NIO products step by step. Regarding the ONVO brand, next year we will continue to deliver and sell our first product, L60, but in the meantime, we also have another 2 family SUVs in the pipeline, ready to launch into the market next year. The R&D of these 2 products is in good progress, and they are also getting ready for the mass production. Regarding with these 2 products launched into market, we will have a complete lineup for the family SUVs under the ONVO brand. For these 2 new products, one will be a mid-large size SUV offering with 6- and 7-seater versions, and another will be a large size 5-seater SUV. And these 2 products are pretty competitive regarding their cost structure and the product performance. A proper benchmark to look for will be L8 and L7 of Li Auto. If you look at our L60 with L6 from Li Auto, the price difference is around $40,000, and you will 40,000 RMB, and you will probably understand the rough price range for our next 2 ONVO SUVs. It will be also with the similar pricing strategy, and with that, the price will be highly competitive. In the meantime, we are also completing our charging and swapping network, especially with more facilities available in the county level places in China. In that case, with more comprehensive sales network and service network, we are very confident with the overall performance of the ONVO brand next year. Regarding Firefly, we are going to deliver our very first product of the Firefly next year. The product is actually named Firefly. We actually follow the mini strategy where the brand and the first product will share the same name. We are going to share more details on the brand and the product on December 21st this year at our NIO Day. Our brand will be making an official debut, and we will also unveil the first product. And overall speaking, we are very confident with this product and the brand lineup. With that, for the entire company, our sales volume next year will be doubling on top of this year's result.
Thank you. I got a second question about your service margin, because you actually have improving in the service margin in the third quarter to only negative 8.8. Can you explain what's the driver for the margin increase in the third quarter in the service, and what's your guidance for the number 4 quarter this year and 2025 for the service? It's going to be double single digit of negative gross margin in next year. So what's your guidance? Thank you.
好的，王明。Q3 的毛利提升的这个驱动因素呢，主要是2个方面。一个呢是我们零部件成本的这个持续优化，包括我们电池的成本和其他零部件的成本。其实跟这个以前的这个季度相比呢，还是有蛮大的这个提升。第二个呢，就是随着销量的这个提升呢。
Okay, first of all, sorry for dropping out a second here on my live stream from the airport. Unfortunately, the Wi-Fi dropped, so in Germany things are not as advanced as in China usually. And I'm still waiting for my flight here, and I appreciate that everybody's tuned in, despite the fact that I'm not having my regular home office set up here. It seems like I also missed on a couple of bullish announcements here, but the last one was very big, if I understood it correctly. 100% year-over-year growth targets on sales for NIO entirely in 2025, and a couple of new models that they talk about for the ONVO brand, compared them to Li Auto, and how it's going to be a new SUV lineup for ONVO as well. And I'm not sure if they also spoke about the NT 2.5 and NT 3.0 platform models coming out next year for the NIO brand. So all in all, that's pretty big news in my opinion on what we've got here from the call, but maybe I have to double check here with your comments and also what we're hearing now, if I understood it fully correctly. Again, apologies for problems with audio connectivity, and I really appreciate everybody tuning in here. And if you're new into this live stream, welcome everybody. This will be available as a recording later on. I'm live streaming here directly from the airport in Berlin, waiting on my flight going out. And now give you my comments on whatever the analysts are asking and management is responding to. So far, pretty interesting takeaways. I earlier made a video about the NIO earnings report. You can go and watch it later if you haven't yet. I think largely the earnings are in line with the analyst expectations. There are many good takeaways like the trajectory of the margin improvements and so on, and a better cash position. But now the gist is here in the earnings call.
Vehicle margin improvement in the third quarter, it is mainly because of two drivers. The first is the improvements and optimization on the cost of the parts and components, including batteries and other parts. In the third quarter, such improvement is more significant than the previous quarters. And the second driver is as we are ramping up our sales volume, our production capacity and volume is also leveling up. In that case, we can also leverage the efficiency improvement and the better amortization on the manufacturing side. With that, we have improved our vehicle margin from 12.2% in Q2 to 13.1% in Q3. And going into the fourth quarter, for the NIO brand, as we've mentioned, our focus will be enhancing the premium positioning of this brand. In that case, we will keep improving the product profitability by dialing back on the marketing expenses and the promotions, and also keep improving our supply chain cost structure. With that, we are confident that we can gradually realize a vehicle margin of 15% in the Q4 this year for the NIO brand. Going into next year, we will also look for several key drivers to continuously improve our vehicle margin, including the improvements on the supply chain and the supply side. Next year, there will be several major iterations and upgrades on the smart hardware, which can further improve our cost structure. And also, as mentioned by William, next year, there will be iterations and facelifts on the NIO brand and the NIO products. By introducing more competitive products with more competitive cost structure into our portfolio, we can also improve the overall profitability of the brand. With that, we are also confident to realize a 20% vehicle margin for the NIO brand in 2025.
好，谢谢王斌。
Your next question comes from Yukon Ding with HSBC. Please go ahead.
Thanks, team. Yuchen here. I got two questions. The first is on the autonomous driving. What's the management would say the key milestone for NIO in the coming 6 to 12 months on this account? What's the key challenges at the moment? What is the biggest highlight of NIO's capability? Maybe give us a bit of a breakdown in terms of user adoption, end-to-end modeling, development, processing power, and its cost. Thank you.
好，谢谢宇倩。那我们在7月底的时候，我们在 NIO Ins 上，其实我们当时发布了这个我们首个这个智能驾驶的世界模型。
Again, seems like everybody here in the comments seems to agree with me that the target that they put out for all of the 3 brands, now I'm calling this NIO Group, not NIO brand, is 100% year-over-year sales growth for next year. So that is a big statement which we haven't heard before. I hope very much that this is aging better than a couple of sales statements that I made in the past. I do think it is very ambitious. It's not entirely unrealistic given that they have so many new models, brands, and catalysts coming up. So I think if that will be the case, this will be obviously a huge development and growth for NIO. And if we see the signs for that really happening, I mean, that's a totally different trajectory than what we're currently on. Despite the fact, now I think my Patreon members, Joseph and Alan, have pointed it out also here in the comments. NIO is growing 40% year-over-year this year. By the way, I had an error in my calculations in my earnings report video earlier this time. So I was at 30% year-over-year growth. No, it's not that. We are growing 40% year-over-year with the targets that they have announced, which I think are very likely they are going to meet them. And that's good growth given BMW, Audi, Mercedes, and so on all see declines, as well as Tesla being flat.
In late July, July at the NIO in 2024, we have introduced the NIO World Model and also the end-to-end solution based on the NIO World Model NWM. And we have already started to release some functionalities based on the new architecture and the World Model, and also have invited users for some internal testing and experience of this new architecture. Actually, before that, we have already released end-to-end active safety features, and in some third-party testing and assessments on the active safety performance of the electric vehicles, our performance is actually pretty good, better than many of our peers. And for the ONVO brand, it is also the first brand to deliver a vision-based navigation-guided smart driving for the urban roads. Recently, we have also just launched a new release, and our users also really appreciated and liked that feature. So overall speaking, with our computing power and sensing capabilities on the vehicles, with our data closed loop, and also our end-to-end World Model, we will be leveraging these capabilities, and in the following months, there will also be several releases, and gradually you will see the effect coming from all this R&D investment. And for the entire industry, there are actually different roadmaps and solutions, and we have chosen this roadmap, and we are confident in the success and the results of that roadmap.
那从 AD 的 Smart Driving 的这个用户价值的角度来讲呢，我们实际上很早就一直提出来，这个智能驾驶的意思，解放精力，减少事故。
Okay, interesting also this time to get a question on autonomous driving. My personal experience from testing different competitors in China like Huawei, Xiaopeng, Li Auto and such, and many others, is that NIO is in the top 3 in China. It has, for example, better capabilities in China than Tesla currently in China. I haven't tested FSD beta in the US, but we have to say Tesla is currently limited to the US when it comes to the FSD development. In China, Tesla cannot offer such capabilities, and NIO has very advanced city pilot functionalities, but still needs to improve them, obviously. So I wouldn't rate them as high as Tesla FSD beta of what we can see happening in the US. It looks more natural, a bit better, more advanced than what NIO has in China. But in China, the case is that NIO has more to offer.
That is, it should serve the benefits and the interests of our users. In that case, we have 2 principles. The first is that the smart driving should relieve the driving pressure of our users, and secondly, it should reduce the traffic accidents. And for next year, our target is that with the smart driving assisting the driving tasks of the human drivers, the safety level should be 10 times higher than solely driving by the human drivers. And this is actually an achievable target. And safety is always a top priority of our features. On top of that, by securing a good safety of the feature, we will then look at the usability and also the experience of the feature, such as further relieving the pressure and stress of driving. We have the same approach for our other features, like our end-to-end model. We started with active safety, and we see significant benefits on improving the safety of our users with that feature.
Thank you, William. The second question is break-even and capital requirement. It looks like next year is very exciting, fully loaded with a strong product cycle, also coupled with Capex and Opex intensity. So do we have a refreshed break-even timetable? And how do we look at the capital requirement in the coming 12 to 18 months?
Interesting question. Let's see if you can answer directly.
那涉及到整个的这个需求来说，其实我们在3季度
Let's see if we get actual numbers or a direct reply on this question, asking straight for the break-even point of NIO. As I mentioned, I think in Q4 next year, we might see the first profitable quarter, and I expect NIO not to be needing to tap into the capital markets, like issuing new shares, as I see they have many other ways of financing NIO. And I think also if the break-even point approaches by Q4 next year, and then hopefully 2026 for the full year, we may actually get there with the current cash balance, which, this is the good side of this report this time, is higher than last quarter and better than what I personally anticipated at 6 billion. However, things can go wrong if the growth isn't there, if there is more money needed to be spent. If something doesn't work out, then NIO may need to tap into new funding, and that will become a problem given how low the company is now valued, and you cannot dilute even more and more going forward. So it's really the risky part of NIO. Let's see if we get some more explanation by the CFO by this question now. But obviously, if you invest in NIO, that's the risk you take.
Regarding the requirements for the capitals, in the third quarter of this year, we have realized a positive free cash flow. And in Q4, according to the current volume guidance, we expect to continue the positive free cash flow. And for the year of 2025, as we target to double our delivery volume, and also by controlling our spending and the pace quarter over quarter, we expect that we will continue a positive growth on our operating cash flow. And such growth will sustain our Opex and Capex on the activities. So regarding the capital requirement or in general fundraising requirement, we don't have a must-have agenda. Instead, we will adjust our fundraising plan and agenda according to the market more dynamically.
关于这个盈利的问题呢，我还是希望从3个点跟你这边跟大家沟通一下，就是
Okay, so the CFO doesn't commit to a definite time at which he says NIO is going to be profitable, but he points out that there will be the revenue growth and the improvements on the profitability side to be expected going into next year. So, yeah, he doesn't, give a straight target here for investors. It's for everybody to make their own calculations how realistic it is. He points at being flexible and dynamic about adjusting the break-even point going into the future, and maybe still tapping markets or maybe breaking even. So, kind of going with the flow how things are working out. So in that sense, I think a conservative way of replying to that question, but on the other hand, kind of expected, right, of not getting pinned down to an actual target here. Again, my personal expectation still is Q4 2025 for the first profitable quarter. That doesn't mean that it's the last negative quarter. Maybe we have some more negative quarters afterwards, but that's my personal expectations there. So we'll see. It's definitely the make or break moment for NIO. So if you're invested, you are betting on that they can turn around and continue steering towards profitability from here. And in my opinion, they will make it without further dilution.
And regarding your question on the profitability, I would like to answer to that from 3 perspectives. The first is that as still a young automotive company, sales volume is still a very important factor for us to consider. And just now we have introduced the product plan of all 3 brands for the next year. With new brands and new products coming into the market, we will be able to realize a higher volume, and we are also confident with our sales volume in the coming years. And the second is regarding the vehicle margin. We also will continue to improve our vehicle margin from Q4 this year together with our sales volume. And the third is the continuous cost saving and efficiency improvement initiative. Inside of the company, we actually started a project called cost mining to just identify the waste and also improve the cost structure and reduce or save costs on all aspects. And we also see pretty good effect with this initiative. With that, we expect that with improved volume, with improved operations, our loss will also be gradually narrowed.
对，所以刚才 Stanley 讲了我们实现盈利的一个路径。当然，从短期来讲的话呢，我们在研发投入方面，大家也看到了，我们其实基本上还是保持了一个比较高的研发支出。那在销售服务方面的话呢，我们的包括我们换电、线线通啊，包括我们新的这些。
So thanks again, everybody, for joining us today. And unfortunately, I'm at the airport, so I really apologize for the distractions here. I'm myself a little bit distracted by now Miriam and our baby Kylie here with us, and also the noise in the background. I hope everything's working fine. I'm still trying to get most of the information across to you guys and give you my comments. So far, my takeaway on the profitability side is the guidance towards profitability, but not giving an exact
regarding our overall expenses, our R&D expenses will be continue to stay at this relatively high level. And for the SG&A expenses, because of our power up content plans, we will roll out the charging and swapping networks, and also we will need to build up the sales and service network for the ONVO brand. So the SG&A expenses will also be under short-term pressure. But still, we will make sure that we are on the right track to gradually narrow our losses. And regarding the profitability, the entire company still use 2026 as the timing where we will achieve the full year break even, and we will be also planning our strategies and activities according to that target.
好，谢谢雨倩。
Your next question comes from Chang Jing with CICC. Please go ahead.
Okay, that was a bit surprising. Full year 2026 profitability target in line with my expectation.
Following up question for the overseas market. So we actually laid out our brand and also models in Europe market quite early as a pioneer, but now we also see some peer brands companies they accelerate their exposure in the European market. So can you share our current European market strategies, whether we can differentiate our brands and also to further expand our volume. Also, especially combined with the launch of Firefly new models next year, where there be a more aggressive overseas expansion targets next year.
谢谢谭静。确实，这个进入欧洲的话，我们已经有一段时间了啊。这个从总体的经营的角度来讲呢，就是肯定和我们当时的预期也是有一些差距。但是我们在 NIO 品牌进入到欧洲这件事情上来讲，是按照一个非常长期的规划的。但如果看到我们接下来的这个计划的话呢，因为我们有 ONVO。 我们有这个 Firefly， 那么这两个品牌的话，它
mentioned before that the CFO kind of talking around getting not pinned down to an actual break-even target, but then comes Li Bin and putting it out there. 2026 is their target to break even for the full year. So that's very much in line with my personal business case. So I'm expecting Q4 first profitable quarter, and then 2026 possibly the full year. Li Bin says they are, walking towards that, and that's their target. I didn't expect them to actually name the target, so that's kind of a surprise. Maybe Li Bin is here jumping in front of the CFO, who mentioned like they will be, watching the market and be flexible and reactive and so on. So obviously, as a CFO, if you're managing the numbers, you're a bit more conservative maybe, and don't want to put out a guidance that is too hard to achieve. But then Li Bin doing the full Elon Musk thing here and setting the company target for the whole company and for investors 2026.
For a while, and its overall operations and performance didn't really live up to our original expectation. Yet for the new brand, our expectation for the European market is actually for a pretty long-term vision. And also starting this year and the next year, another difference is regarding our second and third brand, ONVO and the Firefly. These two brands have a broader market globally. With that, we will also be able to continue our international expansion, leveraging these two brands, and this two brand will be playing a bigger role in our next step. Especially for NIO, it is a premium brand. Now with the tariff in Europe, its selling price is basically on par with the price of a Porsche. In that case, its market is becoming more and more limited. But we will still keep a long-term presence of the NIO brand in the European market. But in the meantime, we will prioritize the global expansion with the ONVO and the Firefly brand. That will be our strategy. So starting next year, you will see that ONVO and the Firefly products are becoming available in more and more countries and regions.
那还有一点的话呢，就是跟在中国市场不太一样，因为中国市场我们从高端市场做起，所以现在 ONVO 的话呢，可以去共享这个 NIO 前面建的这个换电站。
So far, I have to say my feeling about this earnings call is actually quite good, and also this earnings report with the positives on the financial side, with the bottom line, and how much more runway they have, and now with the targets which they are giving here, outlining, still sounding very bullish about the 2025 prospects, to be honest. and everything pretty much in line with my personal expectations as I outlined. Maybe this current report not as much on the pace, but definitely in the direction of what I'm personally expecting. And I have to repeat myself, like 40% year-over-year growth this year is really good.
Here in the Chinese market, we started with the NIO brand for the premium segment. And then we established the power swapping and the charging network, and ONVO brand is now sharing all these established resources and network. But when it comes to the global market, actually, according to the product definition and brand positioning, ONVO actually has a larger market. And also it can ramp up to a higher volume much faster than the NIO brand. In that case, the power swap stations and the charging facilities deployed for the ONVO brand will then be leveraged by the NIO brand. So in the global market, actually the NIO brand will rely more on the ONVO brand. And with that, we will be establishing the charging and swapping facilities centering on the ONVO brand and the Firefly brand for the global market.
Okay, thanks. My second question is regarding to the other sales gross loss. So we can see the gross loss of other sales also narrowed significantly for the previous quarters. So which I think may be related to the increase in our sales volume and also the increase in our like charging and swapping charges and also services. So how do we look forward to the trend of the gross profit margin of other sales, and whether we have an expectation when it can turn positive?
好的，陈宁。关于其他业务呢，我们在 Q2、Q3呢实现了一个逐步的亏损的收窄和毛利率的提升。那主要的原因呢，一个是我们售后服务的这个效率的提升，在前面几个季度我们也提到过。另外一个呢，我们换电站网络的布局呢，也是因为我们4代站的这个研发，
Okay, so on the topic of over-promising, yeah, there might be over-promising. Personally, I have to say my expectations are lower than what they have stated today on terms of the delivery growth next year. I don't think 100% are, certainly in the books, but I think it's a possibility. So if we get that, that would be really awesome. But the profitability targets align with my personal expectations. Yeah, maybe they have some trust with investors, but I have to say they also have delivered on many deliverables in the last couple of months and caught up and got better with that compared to the past. We also have very high expectations always towards the NIO and also for holding and accounting for their goals. For example, take Elon Musk and Tesla, which continuously pushes out, for example, the timeline on self-driving. Still, stock is reacting always positive, always pumped by that. So, we're comparing apples and oranges in many regards sometimes with how well we are holding them accountable. I think what Liben is doing here with stating such targets publicly is also to set it for the whole company. So everybody also on the employee side knows about these targets.
Second and third quarter, we have narrowed the losses on other business and also improved the gross margin. This is mainly because on the one hand, we have been improving the efficiency of our after-sales services. And on the other hand, because of the R&D pace of the 4th generation power swap station, we had slowed down the network deployment and infrastructure construction of the power swap stations. With that, our net loss has narrowed in the third quarter. But in the coming quarters, we will, on the one hand, we will still continue to improve the efficiency and also the profitability of our after-sales services. However, on the other hand, for the entire company, especially for the ONVO brand, we will need to speed up our infrastructure construction so that we will have our power swap stations and other facilities built in advance earlier than the actual need. And in the meantime, with our Power Up Contest plan, for the coming quarters, we will speed up the installation and construction of this swap station. With that, there will be higher loss on other business. But overall speaking, we hope that the profitability or the improvement on the after sales services can offset the loss we have on the advanced deployment of this power swap facilities. That will be our overall strategy.
Your next question comes from Paul Gong with UBS. Please go ahead.
Hi, William. Thanks for taking my questions. Two questions here. The first question is regarding the demand visibility for the ONVO L60. You seems to be pretty confident with 20,000 unit of the volume of the L60 delivery in March. That would put L60 on par to Xiaomi SU7 and the Auto L6 for now. But when you consider right now it is a peak season with the help of the stimulus, and moving to Q1 is going to be slack season with perhaps less policy support. How do you have such visibility? Will you carry over, let's say, significant amount of the backlog you take from right now into the Q1 delivery, or how do you have such kind of strong visibility for the 20,000 delivery in March?
谢谢 Paul。我们对于这个 L6 的这个需求还是非常有信心的。那么近期的话呢，确确实实因为要等这个前面我也讲过了，因为要等的时间相对要
Still questions pouring in. Lots of time that new management is taking today. It's awesome. Thanks again, everybody, for tuning in. As I said, unfortunately, I'm at the airport, so thanks for sticking with me here. I hope the sound is okay. Sorry for dropping off one time. Now my energy saver is also turning on. I don't have, a power plug here, so I hope everything works. I'm not sure how much time I can still spend on Q&A afterwards, but so far I think I must say very coherent and good replies in this earnings call so far. Some very bullish guidelines or guidances here by NIO management team. Whether or not to believe that, it's your own business as an investor, right? I think some of them are stretched, some of them are realistic, generally largely in line with where I see NIO headed and where I personally invest my money. So all I can say is you need to do your own due diligence and pull the trigger yourself, whether or not you want to buy or sell NIO stock. Generally, I'm more excited than ever for 2025 regarding the lineup, regarding its potential, and regarding what NIO is building in total. I think the earnings report so far has been, some good and bad news. Mostly flat, nothing exciting, but we've also seen how the stock has been, really underperforming going into these earnings. So I guess there has been lots of negativity on the stock priced into these earnings already. We might be out of the woods in 2025, maybe not in the first quarter, because that will be rather on the slow side as well. I think maybe that's also one of the analyst questions which we just got regarding the confidence in those actual targets. We'll see how Li Bin replies there for now. But yeah, anyways, that's my rough summary for now. As always, this will be available as a recording later on. But thanks for more than 500 people tuning in live here. Really appreciate that. Make sure to subscribe and become a member of this channel, or maybe on Patreon in the future, and smash a like.
We are confident in the demand for the L60, as in the recent several months, the wait time for the L60s, the wait time for the delivery of the L60 is relatively long, and also as starting next year, some of the subsidies on the vehicles will be gone. In that case, our short-term demand is affected because of this disturbance. But if you look at the actual conversion rate from test drive to order, you will see a pretty high rate. Please forgive me that I cannot disclose the specific number, yet this conversion rate is higher than any existing new products. So overall speaking, with a competitive product, with a competitive price, we are confident with this product, even against the competition in the market. And for the moment, our main focus is to enhance the coverage of its sales and service network. At the moment, it has around 190 ONVO stores. And for the next step, we will enlarge the coverage, as in comparison to Tesla and Li Auto, such coverage is not extensive enough. So we will open more stores, we will enhance and enlarge our sales force, gradually you will see the positive effects of these actions. And starting January next year, as the subsidies will be basically be cancelled or removed for all the products in the similar segment. In that case, we will be on the same level for the competition. But with a stronger product competitiveness and also established sales capacity and capability, we are confident with the L60's overall performance.
Thank you. My second question is regarding the next generation platform, NT3. I think the NT2 versus NT1 has a significant improvement of the autonomous driving calculation power, including the 4 rings, and also has improved some of the powertrain efficiency. Right now, when you are thinking about designing the NT3, how do you think of the platform in terms of, let's say, the computing power for the AD, the battery size, the power of the motor, and the system integration, architecture, etc. So can you give us a little bit color of the technology direction of the NT3 platform, please?
谢谢。那我们其实如果去看的话，对于 NIO 来说 ，ET9 就是我们的这个全新平台的第一款车型，所以你可以看到它不管是从高压的架构，还是从这个EE 的架构，还是从这个我们的操作系统，还是从我们的 AD 的这个。
I think I won't have much time after this earnings call to really go into all of your Q&A. First of all, I'm running out of battery here, and the call is now going already almost 1.5 hours, and I need to catch my flight as well and still eat something before that. So apologies for that. I think just still managed to both cover the earnings report in the live stream as well as this earnings call and give you most of my opinion for that. And I hope that's valuable for you guys out there. I would really appreciate if you keep on subscribing to this channel, share it on social media, and thank you for the support, especially for the patrons out there. I might, as I mentioned, open up the patron community in the future again at the end of the year, so stay tuned for an announcement there. But for now, it's a really nice closed community of 300 people.
The first model coming off from our latest generation technology platform. It is equipped with many new things, including high voltage architecture, EE architecture, operating system, smart driving capabilities enabled by our in-house developed chip for the smart driving, and also advanced and high performance sensors. So if you look at its configuration and performance, it is quite different from any of our existing products. It is basically at a different level. And gradually, these technologies will be trickling down to our future products on the third generation platform. We will use these technologies to iterate and upgrade our existing products. And for ET9, it is the embodiment of our R&D investment and the results achieved in the past 10 years.
Thank you, Paul.
Your next question comes from Tina Hu with Goldman Sachs. Please go ahead.
Thanks, management, for taking my questions. The first one is regarding operating expenses. In terms of R&D, I also see that usually in the fourth quarter, there is around about close to 1 billion of RMB of higher R&D expense versus third quarter. Should we expect a similar type of seasonality into 4Q24? And also for 2025, as we continue to develop new products and then continue to invest in autonomous driving and other technologies, what level of R&D spending are we looking at? And also for sales and marketing in 2025, seeing that this year we launched one model, the ONVO L60, but next year we're going to launch 4 new models. So it doesn't seem like the SG&A expense is going to slow down in terms of the growth. Is my understanding correct? Thanks.
Hi, Tina. 关于R&D expense， 一个呢就是我们在研发强度上基本上。
Okay, quite many questions around NIO's R&D and expenses regarding new technology and initiatives in the future. understandable, but a little bit boring because some of them are very short term, in my opinion. I would have like here also see in the comments by you guys like to see a bit more questions on NIO Power, NIO battery swapping, and revenue streams from the partnerships, from grid balancing, that sort of things. For NIO also to speak about profitability of NIO Power and battery swapping, as well as on the tech side, maybe also some stuff about the impact on the chips regarding some sanctions of the US and so on, that we might get some clarification here from NIO directly. As I mentioned, I think in my last videos, I got the intel that NIO is not impacted by US bans on TSMC and so on regarding their self-developed chips. However, that sort of question would be good to hear in an earnings call and get some questions or replies by the NIO management officially. However, seems analysts are still trying to get some as good as possible estimates on the cost side in order to fill their Excel sheets with the cost structure modeling and so on to predict kind of the financial outcomes of the real next short-term quarters like Q4 and Q1 next year. So it is what it is. Be aware that those analysts, they are also part of the business, of the banking business, that as a long-term investor, you might want to look further.
We will be having our investment in R&D for around 3 billion RMB per quarter, and we will be stabilizing at around that level. But because of the differences of the projects and also at the different stages of the project R&D, the actual spending, there will be ups and downs in the actual spending for every quarter. For example, in the fourth quarter of this year, the R&D expenses will be higher or is expected to be higher than the third quarter. That is also mainly because of the products are at the different stage of the R&D and the cycle, and the expenses will also be different accordingly. For the year of 2025, we will also keep our R&D expenses at around the same level. That is around 3 billion RMB per quarter on the non-GAAP basis. We will also keep the R&D team in the rough similar size, around 11,000 people. And then as we progress with our R&D projects and product development, there will also be slight ups and downs in the R&D expenses on a quarterly basis. But in general, it will be around 3 billion. Regarding the SG&A expenses, as also I've mentioned, in line with the increase of our sales volume, we will also have SG&A expenses going up. But we will also manage this quarter over quarter so that we can make sure that we optimize the ratio of the SG&A in comparison to the overall sales revenue.
Thanks, Stanley. So my second question is regarding the share of losses of equity investee. So we've seen over the past 3 quarters that we have seen a negative number, and that number has been expanding. So is this related to the battery as a service operation? And then how should we think about this loss from the equity investee going forward? Thanks.
是，在3季度呢 ，share of loss of equity 的确实有一些增加。那我们呢，出于整个公司战略的考虑呢。
So a new interesting question. I think the answer and the question before by the analyst on the R&D and Capex and so on contained no new information other than what we heard before during the call today. So if you just tuned in, welcome, but please go back and watch the recording later on to answer all of your questions regarding how NIO management is guiding towards the cost side as well as the revenue side in the future. Basically, they said they're gonna keep the cost in check and looking towards more profitability in the future, expecting profitability for the full year in 2026, and have guided to a strong revenue growth in 2025 of 100% year over year. Whether or not that is super realistic and should be the investor expectations remains to be supported by actual fundamentals in the next couple of weeks and months, I think. But there is not always a direct answer by management here on such questions. That they reserve some flexibility in a way they are going to manage the cost.
The share of the losses of the equity had an increase. That is mainly because for the entire company, we have made some investments into the upstream and the downstream companies centering on this industry. And in the third quarter, the loss went up. It's mainly because of the losses of our investee, which is also acceptable and understandable as they are also in a highly competitive industry. In terms of Weinan, which is our battery asset management company, its actual business means that it will not worsen our losses on the shares, because if you look at its actual business since Q1 this year, after we have adjusted the prices for the battery as a service monthly subscription fee, we actually have witnessed a higher take rate on the bus service, especially in the second half with both NIO and the ONVO products into the market. The business actually experienced a growth with the battery asset management. In that case, it has a pretty promising profitability going forward.
谢谢。
As there are no further questions, now I'd like to turn the call back over to the company for closing remarks.
Thank you again for joining us today. If you have any further questions, please.
The call is over. Thanks everybody for joining me, and yeah, really following here in detail through the NIO earnings. I really appreciate it, even more so because it was happening here on the channel on pretty tough circumstances on the airport. Maybe the sound isn't great. One time the connection dropped, so apologies for that. But I just tried to do whatever is possible. Today is a travel day for me, so I'm now about to board my flight very soon. So I can't stay around with you much longer. But let me summarize again very quickly. My personal feeling after this call is it's have been solid earnings in line with the expectations largely out there. It has been a good earnings call, in my opinion, too. I think we've seen some very bullish statements out there. We have seen good explanations and so on. It does remain still a very risky venture, and it's not clear if they can really operationally succeed and get to the goals which they have announced. In the past, we have to be frank, NIO was going through operational difficulties, and even so still with ONVO right now. So the next targets, like the 10K delivery target or production target, it's a Capex, a capacity target in December, will be crucial to watch, and also whether or not they're really going to do well in Q1 and Q2, which will be tough quarters in the industry generally, right? But overall, we have to acknowledge that NIO is doing a tremendously well job at bringing out very good products, managing company here through a very hostile macroeconomic and industry environment in which other companies like BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and so on see their sales going down, the profits going down, and even Tesla is struggling. They're not growing. They're flat on the year and so on. So NIO pushing off here 40% year-over-year growth, most likely if they meet on their guidance for Q4, and I think they will, is actually quite remarkable here. And I think they can do well in 2025. I'm personally very excited about that. I'm more excited about ONVO towards the end of 2025 than I am about ONVO currently. As I said, right now I'm not so bullish on ONVO and so on, and I try to tame the expectations here on the channel. However, I do see also that investor expectations has been more than what NIO is delivering currently for ONVO. I cannot always, influence or guide everyone to share the same expectations that I have here on the channel, but I'm trying my best. And so, it's always up for you to decide for yourself what you think will be realistic or not, and to be aware about the information and so on. That's what I'm striving to bring here on the channel, and hopefully in a kind of transparent, neutral way. As much as you might need to know, I'm investing personally in the company, and I'm bullish on the company, and I'm hoping that it will be doing well. So you need to hear also other opinions out there, but I also would like that you be aware that lots of the negativity out there and bad takes on NIO is sometimes a bit too much, in my opinion, and I personally have a long-term view. So whether or not you share that is, I know after this real hell of a ride with NIO stock is up to you, obviously, and it's not easy to do. That's I'm fully aware of that. But anyways, thanks for joining me on this journey. And I don't have much more time to cover out it here on the channel because actually I need to get the flight and eat something still and take care of Miriam and the baby. So you've seen it's been off and on here. Thanks everybody for joining, for all of the support. You can become a YouTube channel member also. That helps us also financially. And in the future, I might open up the Patreon again, working on a plan for that in the future. So thanks for again 1,000 times, and see you next. And let's see what's happening in the market today. As you know, NIO is volatile. Sometimes it takes 3 days or more to work in the perspectives of the analysts for the future. All in all, I think NIO is doing an impressive job, but it's not without problems, and it's risky, and it is to be seen whether or not this time they can execute on their big targets. So thanks for watching, and see you in my future videos, guys.